Okay, we're back here in the words of Rabbi Tatz, and he described to us the last time that the power of Bechira is such that it's very powerful, meaning that once that you make a decision, there's two sides of the coin. Well, once you make a decision to go in one direction, that now becomes the thing that fills up all of the space in your mind, that fills up the passions or the drives that are there in your heart because you chose you chose that way, and therefore you're going to be that is the choice that you're going to live with, and that is the direction that you're going to be going in. So he says over here that since that the source of consciousness is filled by the chosen option, that's what we are saying, and because the root of the will is beyond measure and dimension, it does not matter whether the option chosen is strong or weak. And this is a very interesting idea that he's adding over here. And that is that we think perhaps that we should always pick what is the stronger option. But once that you choose even the weaker option, it takes on like a power and a mind of its own. So one could weigh the competing options before choosing, and you can consider each one, and you can decide for yourself, or you'll ponder for yourself the consequences that will end up being a result of whichever choice it is that you take. But once that option is selected, and it activates the deciding will, at that moment of choice, it doesn't make any difference whether the option was strong or weak, because at the moment that you choose it, then that's all that there is, which is similar to what we were saying last time. So at the moment that the question of its motivating strength, at the moment that you chose which one of these two sides of the coin you're going to take upon yourself, the motivating strength that was behind it, it's irrelevant right now. Because it is what it is. The chosen option fills the deciding mind completely. Your mind now is with that. And it may have begun as major and powerful, or trivial and hardly significant. But when it's chosen, it becomes more than powerful, it becomes total. So there's two choices. One is a really strong and a positive choice, and the other one is a very weak, trivial choice. It's not a big deal. It's easy to say no to it. But you decided not to say no to it. And you gave in to that trivial, meaningless choice in your life. So once that you give in to that, and once that you choose that little thing, so the other side of the coin is out the window right now. So there's only one thing that's in front of you, and that's what you chose. And now that that's what you have chosen, that is the powerful idea, the thought, the thrust that a person has now in their life. So he says like this: in the instant of accepting an option and allowing it to enter the root of motivation and operate as an active force of will, there's lots of words over here, that motivation functions fully unopposed. Meaning, once that it comes into the realm of this is what I'm choosing, there's no opposition anymore on that thing. A motivation that is chosen fires action totally, autonomously, and with no limitation as it begins to move. He's going to bring a parable to that we can understand what he's saying in English over here. The all or nothing phenomenon have that quality. Meaning what? An explosive is detonated by lighting its fuse, and it makes no difference whether that fuse is ignited by a massive flamethrower or the smallest of matches. So you have a bomb, you have an explosive bomb over here, and it has a fuse. So I could light it with the butt of my cigarette, or I could light it with a torch. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what I lit it with, because the fuse is going to burn the same. And at the end of the day, the explosion is going to be the same explosion. Whether there was a lot of fire that was lighting the fuse or a little bit of fire that was lighting the fuse, it doesn't make a difference. The fuse is a fuse, it's connected to the explosive, and the explosive is going to explode. So, therefore, he writes, when ignition occurs, it occurs fully. Which meaning, when the fuse runs out to the end, the explosive is going to go. The detonating stimulus has an absolute effect whether it began as the strongest or the weakest of forces. So whether I have the torch or whether I have the butt of my cigarette, it doesn't really matter because the result is going to be the same. So he wants to say a similar idea over here when it comes to free will. And that is that it doesn't really matter what's driving you behind the free will decision. It doesn't matter whether you are gung-ho for one or not the other, whether you have a little bit of interest in this or not a lot, or a lot of interest in this, whether one side of the coin is very powerful, that that's what's right, and the other side is very weak, that that's what's wrong. Whatever it is, that doesn't matter. You are the fuse, so to speak. And what lights the fuse is the decision that you make. So whether your decision was made with tremendous passion, or whether it was made in just a roundabout type of a way, the result is going to be the same result. Once you chose this particular path or this particular thing, that's what becomes the explosive energy that's there in your life right now. A nuclear explosion can be detonated by the mere flick of a switch, and it makes no difference who flicks that switch. The result will be the same explosion. So it doesn't matter if a 3-year-old kid presses the button by mistake, the whole world's going to explode. And it doesn't matter if the most crafty war hero and general of the army, or the president, or the dictator of that country who's got his finger on it, whether he presses it and he's got all different intentions involved in there as he's down in his bunker under the ground so that he shouldn't explode as well. It doesn't matter. What matters is the result. So that's what he seems to be saying over here. That the result of free will is going to be that that's the only choice, that's the only side that remains at this point. And if that's the only side that remains, so then how you got there is almost irrelevant. Now, it's not really irrelevant because the more that we train ourselves to be able to see what is the right decision, what is the wrong decision, and get to know ourselves, what's really motivating ourselves on the inside, and what's pushing us in one direction over the other direction. What is it that is making me tick on the inside that makes me choose the wrong choices again and again and again? And what is it that makes me tick that helps me to make the right decisions? So if you understand all of that, then before you will light the fuse of the choice that you're going to make, you'll have a much better chance of making the right decisions and the right choices in your life. But if a person is somewhat of a happenstance type of a person, that they're never really focusing in on the decisions that they're making, they make it on their whim and they just do it out of what feels to be the right thing. So then they can look at themselves as a little 3-year-old who's got his finger on the atomic bomb button, and they press it, and that shifts and changes, makes an explosion, so to speak, in their mind. That now that's in their mind is what it is that they chose. Now, if they chose the wrong thing, that means that they just jeopardized or sacrificed their mind from being able to see things clearly, because the more that we make wrong decisions, especially if they're on whims or impulsive or the like, it trains us to continue going down a certain path that we should not. On the other hand, if a person goes out of the realm of the 3-year-old and they become a much more savvy, wise, concerted effort individual who patiently makes the decisions to do what is right over the wrong, so then that's also defining who you are in the direction that you're going in. And then when you light the fuse, so the atomic energy that's going to be in there is going to be a positive energy and explosion in your own life for good, and only enhance, and God forbid not destroy or to hurt. Okay, we'll hold it over here today, and let's see what the weather brings. It's supposed to be a nice sunny day on Monday, and if that's the case, we'll be back in person next week.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Daddy. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a good Shabbos. All the best, everyone. All the best.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.